What is up, guys? Well, as all of you know that saw my Terrifier 3 review and a few of my shorts, I am in Austin, Texas, attending this year's Fantastic Fest, my third time attending this festival, and one of the opening night's films was Never Let Go, the newest Alexander Aja film starring Halle Berry, and this is one that I've had on my radar for a bit. I saw the trailer for the first time in theaters, which is kind of a rare thing nowadays, and thought it looked intriguing, thought it looked cool. I really have always been a fan of Halle Berry. I love Gothica, and this was really cool to see her come back and do another horror film. And Alexander Aja is one of those directors where I haven't ever really loved one of his movies, but I've disliked very few. They're always very solid. So he's one of those filmmakers that always gets my attention. And essentially what the plot is here is that you have a mother and her two boys that live in this little house that's secluded in the woods, and she has raised them under this belief that there is this evil out into the world that cannot come into their house, and as long as they are tethered to their house by this rope as they go out for supplies, for food, etc., then they're safe. But if they ever let go of that rope, they are susceptible to being taken over by this evil, which will then kill their entire family. It's a really neat premise, and so I was very much interested in how this was going to be different from Alexander Aja's films and what Halle Berry was going to bring to it. I actually got a chance to interview and meet Halle Berry on the red carpet. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the movie. So I checked it out at its premiere, got a lot of different receptions from everybody that I was talking about, and now it's time to talk about what I thought of Never Let Go. Starting off with the positives, the main thing that I really enjoyed about this movie is actually going to be something that I think might be in a lot of people's negatives for this film, and that's that the movie is so open to interpretation. It is a story that you could very easily just take it at its surface level, where you have this evil entity, spirit, whatever you want to call it, out there, and Halle Berry is just trying to protect her kids, very much as this supernatural survival film. But if you want to unpack it a little further and go more of the metaphoric route, you could look at it as a commentary on families and indoctrinating ideas into your children and not wanting anything outside of the family to come in and taint those beliefs, or whether it be religion or politics or way of life, anything like that. Even to a certain degree, and this is not like laid on thick whatsoever for those that this might be a turnoff to. I even saw it as almost a commentary on COVID to a certain degree, where we have to stay inside the house, we can't let it in. If you let go of the rope, you're going to let the entity in. Like, even that kind of worked as an interpretation of this film. And there was numerous others that I heard floating around. I'm sure if I watch it again, I'll pick up even more. But that was the thing that was really cool about this, is that you could watch it so many different ways, pull so many different ideas out of it, see the story through so many different lenses, and it works in so many different facets that way, where a lot of people can get something different out of this and not necessarily be right or wrong. And I just really enjoyed that about this one. All three of the main performances of the film, Halle Berry, her two sons, are really good. I mean, the two boys, Anthony B. Jenkins and Percy Daggs, a lot of the movie hinges on their performance. They are really the protagonists of this film, and how the two boys differ and how their personalities change. And there's even some swap ups of ideologies throughout the film as well that kind of makes them shift their performances a bit. I thought that they commanded it very well. For a movie with a very small cast and a very simple idea, you have to have very capable actors that get you to believe into this story, and especially something that is so tied into family dynamics and the life or death of a family. You have to buy into not only their chemistry with each other, but all of the emotions they try to evoke, whether it is a scary scene or an emotional scene or anything like that. And so I thought that all three of them did a fantastic job. And talking specifically about Halle Berry, who is obviously steering the ship here, I thought that she did an outstanding job as well. This is a very different kind of character for her, a lot more darker edged. And I want to know, what about this story or this character drew you back to horror?
Well, I mean, this was an amazing script. Like, I hadn't read a script like this before, so it was fresh. It captured my imagination. I had never seen a family in this. I was determined to sort of figure out what would this world be like, and bring all the details to it, and do all that kind of work. And I always love a character where I get to disappear into it. You know, I get to be so far from myself, and that's the work I love, and that's the most exciting, experiences for me. And then to work with Alex Aja, I mean, this was a different kind of film for him too, so we both got to do something different together, and we were very united in that goal.
What I like about her performance is that you buy into her love for her boys, you buy into her belief in this evil that she is afraid of, that she's trying to guard her family from. But there's so much unhinged quality in her performance and in the character that constantly throughout the movie you're shifting whether or not you actually believe her or not, just like the boys are, where you could very easily buy into the fact that this is real and she is terrified and she is driven to protect them from this, just as much as you are able to believe that she is whacked out of her head and she's just indoctrinating her kids into this weird belief and preventing them from actually having a life because of her own flaws, her own insecurities, her own trauma. And even just that question that you go back and forth on in the movie, I think ties in really well into what I was saying in the beginning about all the different things you could take out of this movie. And so I just thought it was a really nice, well-rounded performance, and her and the boys just in general did an outstanding job. Alexander Aja did a great job directing this. There are some genuinely great scares here, but it's also a very different movie for him. It's not as inherently visceral and violent and gory as a lot of his movies are. It's something that is a lot more about the quieter moments and a lot more about the slow build in tension and the suggestion of things out there and toying with your mind, a little more psychological than a lot of the stuff that he does. As far as how he shoots it, it's beautifully made. Like, I don't know what forest and swamp they found to film this thing in, but as somebody that spent 4 years working in the forests and swamps, I wish I could have worked in something as beautiful as this, because it just makes such a horrifying setting that is supposed to be filled with dread such a nice thing to look at. And the last thing that I'll say here, which isn't necessarily something that I've heard anybody involved with the film say was an inspiration, but this movie reminded me a lot of Frailty. And those of you guys that have followed me for a while know that I absolutely love that movie. I'm not saying this is on the same level as that, but very much the same central idea, where you have this parent with this seemingly crazy ideology, this crazy belief system that they are pushing onto two children. One wholeheartedly believes it and is a good little soldier and follows along with what that parent says, and the other one calls bullshit and pushes back and tests the boundaries a little bit, and the brothers challenge each other in that belief system and how much they are able to follow their parent without asking any questions. And I just love the inherent idea of that. I loved it in Frailty. I've loved it ever since I first saw that film, and I thought this was a really nice, different version of that. Now moving on to the negatives. As far as the pacing of the movie, I do think that it takes a bit to get going. It takes about 30, maybe even 40 minutes to really kick into high gear. It does a good job at setting everything up. It does a good job at introducing you to these characters and this idea and where we're going to be taking things, but it really takes about halfway through the movie before you really feel like it shifts into the next gear, and where all the crazy things start to happen and where the tension is at its highest. And so that may affect rewatch quality for me. That may affect how much I want to revisit this film, because all of the build-up is certainly interesting if you don't know what the premise is, which I did, but it really does succeed much more in the back half at delivering the movie that I really wanted. And the last thing that I'll say is that this is a film that I do need to watch again before I really figure out what side of this I'm on, but it's kind of a movie that tries to have its cake and eat it too, in regards to how this concept works and how the different interpretations work together and how everything wraps up primarily. Like, the way that the movie ends, I don't know if it's a very clean ending or not. You know, I like the fact that I can attack this story in different ways and get a lot of different things out of it, but I need to watch it a few more times to see if that completely adds up or not, or if it's something that there's an inherent flaw there with having too much unexplained and having too much up to interpretation and satisfying how stable the story actually is by the final frame. But all in all, guys, I really did enjoy this one. I think this is one of Alexander Aja's stronger efforts. It's one of the best things I've seen from Halle Berry in a long time. It is going to be a divisive film for sure, but if it's something that intrigued you, if you saw the trailer, if you just watched this review or heard the premise and it sounds like something you might be interested in, I'd say check it out. If nothing else, for the performances and seeing what Alexander Aja can do with a bit more of a slow psychological psychological type movie. So I dug it. Had a good time with it. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed that, please click over here for all of my 2024 new release reviews. I'm also going to put my Terrifier 3 review, which was the other opening night film that I checked out. So check that out, please. If you're a Terrifier fan, like, share, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss all the other coverage of the Fantastic Fest films this year. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.